Master Chief in the Morning Show. Got a few special guests with me. I have Command Master Chief Jamye Rainwater and incoming Command Master Chief John Cunningham. Good morning. How are you?
Morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Now, I say incoming and outgoing because you are retiring, correct?
I am.
You are. So, how long have you been in the Navy?
All me bloomin' life.
Oh, you've been
No, almost. This December will be 30 years.
30 years. Wow.
Came in 1985.
Very wonderful. Now, any plans after retirement that you have? Haven't got that far yet?
No, I do. I'm gonna go back home and rehab my house.
Oh, very nice, very nice. So, and so that means that we have somebody that's incoming. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you come from?
I'm actually just transferred in from Gulfport, Mississippi, from Naval Mobile Construction Battalion 1. I got here about 3 weeks ago, and Master Chief got me set up. So still very new to this Naples and everything that goes on about it, and excited about being here.
Now, Master Chief Rainwater, you also were an RDC at one point, correct?
Yes, I was. I pushed recruits out of Orlando from 90 to 94, just before it closed down. Back when, ships were wooden.
Back when ships were wooden?
But back then we still had leggings, we still had the M14 rifles that we carried around, we still had the white duty belts and stuff, so it was old school. Very old school.
Not a lot of people might not know that Orlando was a boot camp place. Was that
That is so hard to believe. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was Recruit Training Command, Orlando, Florida. There was an apprenticeship training school. It's also most of the nuke sailors that are out there.
Okay.
The nuke school was out there. Those cats went to school for about a year, and then I think it was there was an electronics school that was out there or something. It was good times. Plus, I'm from there, so I was about an hour away, and my parents were there, so where I'm retiring back to. So that was very nice for my family, for me to be able to go home on the weekends when we had time.
pretty interesting to see the changes from, for instance, 94 until now in today's Navy, and just all the changes you talked about. First off, Orlando, we don't go there anymore. It's Great Lakes. But then you said that we had rifles in boot camp and whatnot.
M14s, yep. We used them for PT, and yeah, it was definitely a different animal.
Now, one question that I asked him was, I'm sure you've ran into recruits that you had back then and that you have now. Can you describe that feeling of seeing them when they're actually out of the fleet?
So I'm not as charming as Master Chief Cunningham, so I ruled back then by fear and intimidation, which were acceptable means of molding young sailors into productive sailors, or young recruits into productive sailors. So it was a different time. But so yeah, I run into those cats. I mean, I used to be a survival, evasion, resistance, and escape instructor, and I was on the bottom deck walking around. And I heard this voice, and he goes, "Hey, Petty Officer Rainwater." And I turned around, and my recruit chief petty officer was there he was as a full bird lieutenant, getting ready to go through the SEER school he was a jet pilot. I was like, holy cow, and he was really respectful, and it was kind of a shocker because I was first class, and I pushed one a second, and he was just very, very respectful. Like, he was still looking at me like, here he was a lieutenant, and he was still treating me with the with the respect of what a company commander would get.
Now, one question I have too is we're seeing a lot of changes in the military, especially with females. How many females were in your divisions when you went through?
So we invented the integrated company there. There was nowhere else we didn't do that. In fact, they pulled some of the company commanders that had pushed integrated companies up to Great Lakes when they were making the changes, and so I had one of the first ones of those too. So it was just half and half. I'm not sure. My first company was females or whatever. That didn't go well because I'm very aggressive and I don't have a nurturing. I am nurturing, but I was just better.
Not in that environment.
No, I was just better with because I grew up. My community is predominantly male, so I relate better to that, and that just seemed to be my niche. And they want to put you where you're going to be successful. So it was mostly males until the very end. I had 2 integrated companies at the very end, and there's a lot of resistance, but I think that's probably a good mix. So it was half and half. So if you have a company of 80, it was 40 and 40, and then as attrition goes through, you lose them through the inspections, or some of them they get
medical and
stuff like that dropped all the way down. So you probably graduate with maybe 70
One question that I have for you, Master Chief Cunningham, what would you say as a Master Chief makes you the most proud of your CVs in today's Navy?
Well, getting to where I was today was on very many sailors' efforts. I can sit here and claim all day long, so what made me most proud to be here is running into those folks, seeing the evolution of them as they grow, as they become, for those that have the aspirations of becoming a Chief Petty Officer, are, some that decide to go to the officer side and, be a part of the Civil Engineer Corps or better themselves. So, seeing that evolution of sailors, seeing that, as Master Chief talks about innovation, stuff that we probably would have never thought about and been able to reach to. So,
I was looking for when the clock. Hey, it's time to get off.
But different generation, different time. The Navy has evolved. The sailors have evolved with it. We just got to catch up sometimes and let them do what they need to do to get the job done and not question as much. So my role as Command Master Chief is for NAVFAC EURAFSWA, so Europe, Africa, and Southwest Asia. So that encompasses a lot of military personnel, civilian personnel across all those different locations, about 334 sailors that I am administratively responsible for as they are meeting the missions at each base installation that they're supporting in places like Bahrain, Romania, Ceuta, Sigonella, and Rota, Spain, and here in Naples. So there's a lot of locations, and we're still spreading our reach as we expand to meet the strategic goals of the COCOM commanders.
Now, some people might not know exactly what a CB does. Can you kind of just describe what exactly they do?
Wow. So
we can do everything.
I mean, we only have about a half hour left.
So CBs are construction, combat, contingency construction, trade sailors. So we are very honed in on being construction trades. So like myself, my source rating is a UT. So utilities, men, water, sewage, and HVAC. So, and there's electricians, there are steel workers, builders. So we have 7 primary rates that we make up in our CVs that we are trade specific. And places like here in EURAFSWA, where we have public works departments that are supporting base installation commanders, they have a bunch of sailors that are trying to refine their trade skills. So when the flag goes up, if another war was ever to happen, we can meet the missions of the commanders forward in supporting their base installations, build-ups, the Marines, whoever. So when war is not on, we are honing our skills in NAVFACs and our construction battalions to make sure that our sailors are ready for the next mission that comes within their rating specifics.
Retirement's coming up pretty soon, right?
It is.
Has it sunk in yet that you're going to be?
It has. It has. It has. It's like you say, the changes and stuff, and it's time for a new guard to come in, sort of the old guard. So it's. People have always told me growing up through the ranks that you'll know when you know, and it's time. So it is. Ready.
One thing that can always get us is when you're in the job and you're going through it. You never think that there's going to come a day when I take this uniform off for the very last time. It's going to happen for every single sailor that is in our Navy at this current time. Did you ever think that moment would come, or did you know? You just never really thought about it?
I don't know if I thought it in those. I never thought I was going to retire. I've been getting out for 30 years the service. I'm incorrigible a lot of times and very strong-willed. But I think, I'll tell you what I'm going to miss. I don't know about taking the uniform off. I'm indifferent to the uniform. I've changed the uniform so many times. I tell you, it's the people for me. It used